Medical disclaimer. This video is for informational purposes. It does not replace the medical advice of a trained doctor. Seek medical advice before beginning any treatment plan. Hi, welcome back to Mike's Diabetes World. Let's take a look. I'm almost normal. 8.3, have 1.5 units left. I'm full all the way across, except for calibration, but that'll be easily fixed at dinner time. What I want to discuss today is something that happened way back in 1921, and that is discovery of insulin. And I titled this one because insulin is actually my hero. And I'd be 6 feet under without it. And I can't understand why it's taken so long for the states to react to the high price of insulin. In Canada, it's subsidized, but it's not like these people decided, oh well, I'm gonna just get diabetes because it's so much fun, so I gotta take this off. Their body attacked themselves. Well, they should have had medical insurance. Well, you know how hard it is in the States to get medical insurance when you have a pre-existing condition? Diabetics need this substance to live. People have died, and I can't understand why companies are raking in all this profit. I'm all for free enterprise, but we want to make sure that when people need life-saving treatment, they can get it. I know there's talk now of Eli Lilly cutting back the price. But if I had to pay what the Americans have to pay for insulin, the amount of insulin I use is crazy. Insulin is my hero. Banting and Best and McLeod, and I think Cullop was the last one, have done so much. It's one of the greatest discovery, that's the word I was looking for, to have ever happened. Type 1 diabetics used to be dead within 6 months. And they're basically saying now, you go without food, you go without housing, just as long as you can pay your insulin bills. If you don't have insurance, and a lot of people who time out of their parents' plan have trouble finding insurance they can afford to cover the insulin. Now, it would be nice to say free insulin for all, but that's not going to happen. I'd like to say something here. The patent for insulin was sold, I believe, for $1, so that insulin would be available to everyone. And now the three or four major companies have just decided that they can make a killing, pardon the pun, off these people or people who need insulin, and they're going to pay. People come up to Canada and they take our insulin because up here it's like so much less. I've said this before, and I think it's important that every person who requires insulin to live should be able to get it. Now, I know just when they came out with all those tests for that mysterious illness that was around a while ago, there were some people who were selling those tests. They got them for free and they were selling them. They were selling them on the internet, and it's almost extortion. Extortion. And I know what it's like to be without insulin. I can remember when I left my job and had to go on to disability, there was a week where I didn't know where the next insulin came from. And there was no way I could afford a bottle of insulin. Luckily, my pharmacist gave me a bottle, tied me over, and then I paid for it later. But it's not our fault. And yet, we just have to keep paying through the nose. And it's not only insulin, it's the CGMs, it's the pumps themselves, it's the tubing. Everything is so expensive. When you add it all up, people with diabetes, especially starting off with work, I know when I started off, I made $4.85 an hour. Though granted, things were a lot different now. But why do governments, they're cutting into free enterprise? Well, I'm sorry, you're cutting into our health, our chance to live, just because a person can't afford. And I know here, that was one of my arguments about when I got passed for a CGM. It was decided, it's just an accessory. And when I went up for the tribunal, I said, this helps deliver my insulin. I'm not getting out of the hospital without having this device. So calling it an accessory would be sort of the pump case. But it's all required for insulin. And people who have these insurance plans that are able to cover it, awesome. But if you fall through the cracks, up here, you may not get the best brand new pump, but you can get a pump. If you have a specialized case, you can get the CGMs. So, people who can't afford insulin have kind of limit how much insulin they've got. And it happens up here in Canada as well. You need to discover any way of covering your insulin. Call your doctor. I'm sure your doctor, your diabetes education center can help you get supplies. The Diabetes Education Center helped me get this. It helped me get FIASP years ago. But we shouldn't have to keep fighting all the time. It's kind of like, well, you could have the newest stuff that could help your health, but you'll just have to pay through the roof for it. Enough is enough. Insulin, syringes, everything, I still feel should be covered because it's a necessity of life. Whereas you smoke too much and got lung cancer, well, then your insurance should be forking over. But there's all sorts of horror stories. Diabetes needs insulin. And I know there's been changes on the American side, but there's still people out there that can't afford insulin. That needs to change. Think about it. Have a great day. Bye now. My email is mikesdiabetesworld@gmail.com. mikesdiabetesworld@gmail.com.